still, he yelled, "Am not!" Someone shoved Tim from behind. He stumbled into a boy directly in front of him, who shoved right back. Tim fell, landing on his knees. He scrambled to his feet, knowing if he was down they might kick, or worse. But as Tim got up, someone's shoulder met his face. The bloody nose he'd expected began. Tim glanced around to see if the blood would scare them or only make them madder. Every single boy was bigger than Tim, who wasn't very big at all. His dad said he'd catch up to all the other kids. Just look at his feet. Tim's feet were huge, which was why he tripped a lot. "You don't even have a mom," Jeremy said. "Do too." She was just gone. Tim didn't remember a thing about the woman who had left him somewhere, then never come back. "Only losers don't have moms." Tim had Dean, the daddy he'd found when he'd gone on his daddy quest. He had aunts, uncles, cousins, and the best grandma and grandpa in the world who lived right across the cornfield. Everyone loved him. On the farm, Tim wasn't an orphan. He was a Luchetti. But most kids had moms, even if she didn't live with them. They knew their mom's name, where she was, why she'd left. Most kids, but not Tim. "I don't need a mom." "That's good, because you ain't gonna get one, loser." Jeremy headed for the open area behind the school, where the other boys were playing real football. Tim breathed a sigh of relief that he'd avoided getting punched or landing in trouble. Then Jeremy tossed one final taunt over his shoulder. "I hear your dad is as big of a dimwit as you are. No one will marry him." "What did you say?" The playground went silent. Was every kid staring at them? Jeremy came back, towering over Tim, wearing a nasty grin that said he'd been waiting for this. "I said your dad is an idiot. The only job he could get is being a farmer, and that's because his dad gave him the farm. He's never been married because he can't get a girl, and he had to adopt a kid that was as dumb as an old cow just like him." Tim stopped listening to Grandma Ellie's advice and moved on to his dad's. When all else fails, Tim socked Jeremy as hard as he could in his big, soft belly. While Jeremy writhed on the ground, Tim said quietly, "Don't ever talk about my dad again." He lifted his gaze, and the others shrank back. Tim might be little, but he'd lived in a place where meaner kids than this had tried to do a lot worse. And no one talked about his dad like that. Tim left Jeremy on the pavement with his friends gathered around. He ignored the other children and headed toward the school, where he took a seat against the building and dabbed at his nose with his shirt. Someone would come and take him to the principal's office. They always did. Until he'd met Dean Luchetti, Tim had never known love or home or family. He'd do anything for Dean. Tim sat up straight. Why hadn't he thought of this before? He'd prove everyone wrong. He'd find Dean a wife and himself a mother. The time had come for the mommy quest. Ms. O'Connell? Stella lifted her head and waited for Laura Benedict, her secretary, to get on with it. Instead, the woman just stared at her. "Yes?" Stella tried to keep the impatience out of her voice and failed. She had to remember that she was new here. Well, not new exactly. She'd attended this school, but she was the new principal of Gainsville Elementary. She just needed time to get used to how things were done in Illinois, which was different than they'd been done in Los Angeles. Some of those changes were the result of working in an elementary school in the Midwest rather than a high school in the center of one of the largest cities in the country. And then again, some weren't. "I'm sorry," Laura said. "I keep forgetting."